Shalawam family. So I'm going to try to make this as brief as possible. This public spectacle has been dragging on for weeks now. Obviously, if you're in the Israelite community or even the Christian community or the Muslim community, at this point you've heard of the allegations and the exposing of my husband, Gorilla Hebrew. However, you've seen evidence and you've probably heard my friends defending me, whether it's in a clubhouse room or YouTube or whatever, but you haven't heard from me yet. And the reason that things have come out in the way that they have come out primarily is because of me, and because of that, I have to speak now, and my husband, quite frankly, has really left me no other choice but to defend myself, which I told him that I would do if he lied on me. And I also want to make it very clear, as much as I love you, Israel, I don't need your approval. My husband needs your approval. He needs you to believe him more than he needs or wants the approval of the Most High. So my purpose in this video is pretty much just to tell my side of the story and give some clarity to the things that have been said, the evidence that's been shown, and quite frankly, my part in it. And I didn't want this spectacle. I didn't want this big public thing, and I didn't want this, and I made this very clear to everybody from the onset of this. This is not what I wanted. However, I believe this is what the Most High wanted. What you guys have seen in terms of my husband's initial video and his videos after that and his actions after that is the man that I've known for years. A man who can look you in the face and cry and repent, and at the same time tell half-truths and whole lies, all in the name of self-preservation and to escape accountability. So I guess I can start from the beginning, so to speak. I obviously don't want to go back to freaking Genesis, the very beginning of, you know what I mean? It's not that deep, but I will try to briefly just give you guys a general timeline kind of our relationship and our marriage, leading up into obviously where we are at right now. So met my husband back in I want to say late 2018, early 2019. I was already in the truth, maybe about a year and a half. I was still in the Christian church, but transitioning my way out. I was kind of more rooted by, relationships and being connected, and just kind of not wanting to abandon the people that have been a part of my life, my whole life, or at least to me, it felt like my whole life. So I was probably a year and a half into the truth when I met my husband, which was actually online. It was a simple shalom in the inbox. I used to always tell him, you had me at shalom. So that's how it started. And in the beginning, I didn't even know who he was. I came into the truth off videos from HOI and AOC. I didn't know who Gorilla Hebrew was. I didn't know, anything like that about him. I didn't know he had a congregation. I only found that out, a little ways into our relationship. And I know in one of his rants, he had talked about how when he met, or he took me out of a 1-bedroom apartment and, all of that. But when I met my husband, he didn't have a car. He didn't even have a license. And he too was living in an apartment with Naya, who's the first wife, Hassad, and 2 children. I believe it was like a 1-bedroom apartment as well. So whatever. So when I met him, he was guerrilla Hebrew, but he was not the version of guerrilla Hebrew that he is now. So we met, we talked for a while. Obviously, it was long distance. I believe he was in Washington for a time, or he had just moved to Texas at the time. He also had another wife. Her name is Tiffany. I never got a chance to meet the sister, but I heard about her. I believe their marriage was phasing out by the time I came on the scene. So, fast forward, we court for months, probably about 7 or 8 months before we even met. And the majority of the time, like, he just spent like just teaching me, you know. I learned a lot from him. I was still new in the truth. I knew some things, but, you know, I was still watching, you know, AOC and HOI and you know, other camps. So I didn't have any like solid doctrine, so to speak, at the time. So, you know, he was able to mold me fairly quickly in terms of my understanding. And I welcomed it because I was new in the truth. Very knowledgeable brother. A Haitian man, of course. What luck. I can't seem to stay away from Haitian men. But anyway, so everything just lined up. Over time, I did start to notice in conversations as things got a little bit more heated. Now, understand, in the beginning of this, we were long distance, so we hadn't had sex yet. We weren't married for the first, like, at least 8 or 9 months. Like, we were long distance. We had premarital counseling with the elder Shalawam. I believe it was elder Shalawam. It could have been another elder, but I'm pretty sure he did our premarital counseling before we ever laid down together and everything like that. So I started to notice you know, little comments and things that he would make in the realms of what I now know to be a cuck fetish, but just things about, you know, interracial and white men and things like that. And I can't even really tell you why I entertained it at the time, or, you know, why I kind of didn't like sound the alarm on it or whatever. I did think that it was odd. So much so that I actually have screenshots from back in 2019 when he first started to kind of, you know, say certain things and bring certain things out, you know, kind of out of the blue, in terms of this fantasy and things like that. And now y'all remember, I'm new in the truth, so you know, the very beginning of the truth, I'd imagine for a lot of people, you know, there's that fresh zeal, that, you know, that we used to call it in the Christian church, the fresh, you know, that fresh wind that you'll get. You know, you're invigorated in the spirit, you're invigorated in the truth, you're learning all these things about yourself, and you're the chosen people, and you're understanding things scripturally that you never saw before in the Christian church. So I mean, that's what drew me in to him, the way that he taught me, the way that he broke things down, the way that he treated me, even from a distance. Now, mind you, during this time, I was still paying my own bills. I was still long distance. I was still working. I had my eldest child. When my husband and I met, my daughter, I believe, was about 12 or 13. She's 18 now. So still taking care of my kid and things like that. So over time, obviously, I noticed the comments and certain things, and to me, it's like, you know, at this point, I'm in love with this man. We've had, you know, counsels and premarital counsels and things like that. Like, I know what the calling is on his life. I know what he's meant to do. I know what he teaches. So this is completely opposite of what he teaches, in like the worst way. I recognize it as a demon, you know, something that was on him, obviously trying to, like, you know, get in the way of the work that he had to do for the Most High. So, you know, to me, it wasn't a thing for me to run away from at that point. You know, it was like, okay, I have to, you know, pray for him. I gotta, you know, fast and kind of talk him through it, and, you know, things like that, whatever. And so as time went on, there was, escalations, I would say. You know, certain comments and certain things would become more and more frequent. Again, like he said, it was all fantasy, just conversation. But again, as time went on, we did obviously get married, right? And then I got pregnant with Jericho. And for the longest time, even I spent my entire pregnancy still back in Connecticut, which is where I was when I met my husband. There were things that I was uncomfortable with in terms of the fetish, but that wasn't the biggest thing for me. It was just, you know, just finding out different things in terms of, you know, the Naya, who was his wife before, who he was with before he came into the truth. Just hearing about how he was dealing with her and things that were happening in, you know, in the house that she still lived in with him, which he had told me in the beginning they were not together, but he didn't tell me later on down the line that they still lived in the same house. So I was finding things out later on. So there were things that that kept me from moving to be with him once he got to Atlanta. So when he says things like, you know, over the span of 5 years, me being disrespectful and what else did he say? I was disrespectful and disagreeable or whatever. What he's leaving out is the fact that for at least 2 of those years, we weren't even in the same state. I spent my entire pregnancy with Jericho in Connecticut. I gave birth to him in Connecticut. I didn't finally move to Atlanta until Jericho was, I believe, about 6 months. So I worked my whole pregnancy, gave birth to Jericho, was on maternity leave, or actually, for the record, he paid my rent one time while I was on maternity leave in Connecticut, because I, you know, used up all my maternity time, and I just couldn't stand to leave my son. So I wanted to take like an extra month off. So he did pay my rent that one time out of those 2 years, for the record. Because it seems he's roped me in with his other women in terms of saying it's about money, or, you know, whatever ridiculous excuse that he's using. But so I ended up moving when Jericho was about 6 months, and I moved with him into a house in Atlanta. I was there for only about 3 months. Not only had the conversations about the cuck fetish increased, and kind of like the need for the conversation, but there was just other things that were going on that I was uncomfortable with, that just didn't walk with what he taught, didn't walk with the things that he told me before I moved. And then honestly, I think I just got a little skittish and a little scared, because I'd been independent for so long and had taken care of myself for so long, and here's this man who's now my husband, and he wants me to pack up my whole life and leave, you know, everything that I know, to be with him. And it was just scary for me to have given up so much of that control. And once I had moved and I was in it, I was overwhelmed by it, and I was overwhelmed by the way that I saw him move behind closed doors. And I was concerned about the cuck fetish, and I was concerned about, you know, ways that he wanted me to dress, and the way he dealt with Naya. And honestly, by that point, he had Tiffany, Naya, or he had reconciled with Naya at that time. Unbeknownst to me, he reconciled with her while she was pregnant with somebody else's baby. That also made me very uncomfortable, but whatever. Naya, and then there was Parshay. I'm sure you guys have probably never heard about her, right? Parshay, and then there was Kaylee. And by the time I believe Jericho was about 6 months, I could be off on that, whatever. I had just had enough of just a bunch of just weird stuff that I couldn't understand. And as an Israelite wife, the one that was in the truth, it's like we're, you know, the Bible tells us we're supposed to, you know, follow our husbands, and we're supposed to stand by our husbands, and we're not supposed to leave our husbands, and we're supposed to be, you know, towers against death, and we're supposed to. So those things kind of kept me, you know, from leaving almost immediately, to be honest. And sidebar, I also paid for at least half of my move to Atlanta. I just want to throw that out there. He didn't even pay for the whole thing. I paid for half of that. And I can produce receipts. I pray I don't have to do all of that. So anyway, so after just kind of dealing with stuff for a little bit, and just being uncomfortable and just scared and just whatever, I took off, right? He also left that part out. I've left him before. And when I left him, he wasn't aware. I actually left while he was out of town. And once he returned, obviously he found out that I left, you know, we talked or whatever. Obviously he wanted me to come back. But I was just reluctant. I just didn't feel like things were right. I didn't understand his leadership. I didn't understand how he handled Naya. I didn't understand why, you know, at that point, Tiffany was gone. Naya was kind of, I don't even know half the time. Naya was kind of in and out and whatever. And Parche apparently was gone. I heard she committed adultery, whatever. I'm pretty sure the only person that got it billed was Tiffany, but I never saw that. And then Kaylee, another wife, some of y'all might know her, was actually in the truth. But she saw the red flags and got out of Dodge. She still had her father in her life, and her father was able to get that marriage essentially annulled. So she was gone. So there was just a lot of things. So while I was away, one of my concerns was this fetish, and, you know, some other things as well, but I knew he wasn't going to go to counsel about it. He wasn't going to talk to anybody about it, so I took it upon myself to reach out to the elder Shalawam. Now, I heard recently on a video, somebody said something, or it might have been a clubhouse room, I believe it was Elder Zabak, who said that he was yielding to counsel, or he had counsel now from Kahan and Elder Shalawam. That's news to me. I thought when he left the Yasharahla that, you know, whatever. So I'm saying that to say that it's my understanding that the Elder Shalawam either records all of his counsels. I don't know if that's with like a recording device or whether it's that he writes, you know, he takes notes or whatever, but I don't know if he would be a witness in my defense of the fact that I did reach out to him the first time I left, and I did bring up my concerns about the fetish. And I'm gonna be honest, when I told the elder advised me not to go back, because obviously at this point I've left, and of course my husband's trying to get me to come back, and I'm kind of reluctant. And the elder's pretty much like, you know, and I told the elder, he doesn't know I'm calling you, doesn't know that I'm telling you this, like, but I don't know what to do about, you know, my concerns with this fetish, and then also just some other, you know, random stuff. The elder, honestly, he has my permission. If he were to decide to be a witness, I don't know if they would, or if he would be a witness for me in that regard. But if he were, I'm saying publicly that I'm giving him permission to share the contents of that counsel. Salakia Israel, I'm very, very congested and decided today was the day to record. So you're gonna have to deal with the sniffles. I'm not gonna be able to edit all of that out, but anyway. So I did speak to the elder, and the elder told me not to go back yet, that my husband was going to need some sort of therapy or some sort of counseling, and that I needed to kind of sit tight. And I don't remember if he said that he was going to reach out to him, or if he wanted me to kind of talk to him to see if he would be interested in doing counseling or whatever. But so I didn't go back. I didn't go back for about a year, but I did talk to my husband about, you know, while I was obviously still in Connecticut, you know, considering, like, do you think like a counsel would help? Like, if we did therapy, obviously this is things the elder had told me. I'm not going to tell him. The elder told me that. I'm just like throwing things out there. Like, do you think, you know, that would help? Because I'm concerned about it. And of course he was like, no, you know, for obvious reasons, right? He's embarrassed about it. And, he doesn't want people in his business or whatever. So, but we spent about a year. Mind you, I went back to work and everything. He was still supporting in terms of, you know, sending money for Jericho and, you know, making sure, you know, his sitters, the people who were watching him while I was going to work, were, you know, paid and things like that. So he did, you know, he took care of his son, and he also made sure I was good as well, even while I was away from him, because at that point we were trying to work towards reconciliation, but we, you know, we wanted to have a game plan on how we were going to deal with it. And, you know, after a year I returned. And when I went back, so I went back, you know, we had come to just kind of some, you know, agreement to how we were going to handle the situation, and the understanding that he gave me was, as long as, you know, we didn't go outside of our marriage bed, you know, the marriage bed is undefiled, as long as we didn't do anything outside of our marriage bed, and it was kept, you know, with between us, and with phone conversations and, you know, whatever, or text messages and things like that, you know, it wasn't sin. So isn't that what Israel says? Your husband's understanding is your understanding. So that was my understanding. And again, like, and it is true what he's saying as far as it was fantasy. It was all fantasy. It was all text messages. It was all, you know, role play kind of scenarios and things like that, which I want to make very clear I was not comfortable with. Like, I didn't like it. It wasn't my fetish. It wasn't my, you know, whatever. But if you think about something your partner likes, maybe on a smaller scale, right? Because all of y'all don't have a mic, you know, anybody with a magnifying glass in your homes, in your bedroom. So we don't know what the hell y'all are doing or what the fuck y'all are into. So let's think about it on a smaller scale. Sometimes, you know, your partner may be into something that maybe you may not necessarily like, or you may not want to do, but to please your partner, like, you'll do it, you know. So I want to make it very clear, I was never forced per se. I never had a gun to my head. I never, you know, but I definitely felt like I was coerced and groomed, and that's going to make more sense as I get closer to the end of this. So the way that he explained to me that I helped him was, I guess, just by entertaining it, you know, just by talking to him about it and things like that. And there'd be times where he kind of wouldn't talk about it for a while, and then, you know, any little thing would bring it up, and then we're, you know, talking about white boys and, you know, stuff like that. And I actually did research. As many intelligent brothers and sisters as we have in the community, I'm honestly baffled at how many of you didn't simply do a Google search to understand what the cuck fetish is. Now, obviously, I'm in the truth, right? So I recognize it as a demon. I know what it is. I understand my husband's calling in life. I see that he has a congregation. I see that he has people who look to him. And the primary part of the cuck fetish is there's an interracial component, and that goes for the cuck fetish in general. Like, if it's a white man, it's a black man that he wants to see with his wife. If it's a black man, it's a white man that he wants to see with his wife. So obviously, knowing what he teaches, knowing what he stands for, knowing what he says in terms of Esau, and like, to me, I'm like, man, this is really like something that Satan has sent, obviously to derail him, to deceive him, to tempt him. And for me, I wanted to help him, and I also understood, based off my research, that this particular fetish, outside of my understanding of it spiritually, is tied to trauma, right? I seen somebody, you know, make a comment about, why would she even entertain this? You know, she's an Israelite woman. Why would she even? Was I supposed to abandon him? Was I supposed to say, oh my God, it's crazy, oh, let me just, you know, leave. Let me walk away. What would you all have said of me then? Y'all can't have it both ways. Y'all can't tell sisters you're supposed to stick by your husband. You're supposed to stand beside him. If something's going on, you're supposed to be there with him. It's either this is your husband till death or adultery. Or that's biblically, right? That's our understanding in scripture. So just walking away and leaving because I knew about it is retarded and it's stupid, and it's not even something that I would advise a sister to do. Now keep in mind, it was fantasy until it wasn't. So for me, based off my research and what I understood it to be, and the different there's nuances to the fetish. It depends on the cuck. This sounds so crazy, but I have to just be 100% at this point, because like I said, I'm gonna do what my husband won't do, and I'm just gonna tell the truth, because I have to unburden myself of this. So depending on the cuck, some are into domination, some are into strap-on, some are into even being with the other man. I'm just telling y'all different components that are, you know, that are generally, you know, it depends on the person. So for me, it was about while we're trying to get this up off him, it's clear, because he would fast, you know, I would pray, you know, while trying to get this up off him, you know, if I could get as close to fulfilling the parts of this fetish without ever crossing that line, that means bringing someone else in, that means actually talking to other men, things like that, then I was going to try those things, because my concern was, as time went on, I saw an increase for his appetite for it. I saw escalations. Conversations became more frequent. The smallest things would cause him to make certain comments. You know, we could be talking about something as random as Walmart and the white security guard that works there. Right? I won't get into that. My husband knows what I'm talking about, and he knows I'm not lying. I pray he doesn't make me prove it. So, you know, things like that. And I started to become concerned as time went on. And Naya knew about it as well, obviously, because she had been with him for years prior. I want everybody to understand that this fetish pre-existed me. It was here before me. It was here even before he came into the truth. And whatever it is, he's trying to almost paint this picture as if I'm the reason for it, or I'm to blame, or whatever. Like, that's not the case. It's nonsense. So anyway, but as, again, like I said, as time went on, I became concerned, because there was an escalation with him. It just seemed like it just became more and more and more like it needed to be a part of our sex life. And Then it was the people he would surround himself with, the places he would go, things like, you know, Naya's cousin, former prostitute. Naya was a former prostitute, former stripper. The sister was a prostitute, or former prostitute turned whatever. But it was just, and these were the kind of people that were around him. This was the kind of him going into clubs. Y'all have to understand, like, he'll say shit like I was disagreeable and, you know, disrespectful, but I knew the kind of demon that was on him. I knew being around certain women, going into certain places like these clubs and things like that, all of these things are temptations. I had a fear that he would eventually seek this out elsewhere, because he knew, despite what I was willing to entertain within the confines of our marriage bed and text messaging, that I would never cross that line. Although he tried to get me to. And I suppose that's what made me disagreeable and disrespectful, because I saw shit and I called shit out when I saw it. I don't know if anybody found it strange who follows my husband on any of his social media platforms. I don't follow him. I never have. That doesn't mean I don't support him on YouTube and things like that, but this was my way of staying in order, because there were things that I saw and places I seen him in and women I seen him around that I was concerned about because of what I knew he was dealing with. I'm supposed to be his tower against death. I guess that made me disagreeable. It made me disrespectful. When he started having back problems, and you know, I went to see a chiropractor, and then you know, I guess it was recommended massages might help as well. When I found out that Naya's cousin who was a prostitute, who then became a masseuse, was starting to give him massages, I took issue with that. And I said something to him about it. I told him, you know, I'm just giving you guys an example of just some of the shit that he might have called me being disagreeable about or disrespectful. I said something about that. I was like, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't think that's a good idea. She has a past. I understand she's a masseuse now. She has a past, but I have reason to believe certain behaviors are still very much a part of who she is, and I don't think that's a good idea. Of course, Masalah, here you go. You always making something out of nothing. Always you know, it's not like that. You know, she's got her certification. She actually gives massages, and I'd rather pay her than go and pay a heathen and blah, blah, blah. I'm always the bad guy, right? So I had to just take a step back off that. I'm saying that for a reason. This is going to be important. Stick with me, Israel. I'm trying not to, you know, but I need y'all to really understand what I'm saying. So it was things like that. So anyways, fast forward, we go to Feast of First Fruits. I will have to look at the date to, you know, be 100% in terms of timeline. But anyway, there was a Feast of First Fruits. By this time, I moved back to Atlanta. I'm staying in an Airbnb at the time. He had me come back to Atlanta, but still hadn't had a place for me to go. So I was staying in an Airbnb at this time. Feast of First Fruits. We were at the school. I don't recall what it was that Naya had told me or had revealed to me that he hadn't told me about, but whatever, it pissed him off. Because it pissed me off. I got upset because I found out, obviously, some more stuff. There's one thing my sister wife was good for. Like, she would tell me shit that was going on that he didn't want me to know about for obvious reasons, because I'm in the truth. If anybody's going to tell him he's dead wrong about something, it's going to be me. Which is what made me disagreeable and disrespectful. So, we're leaving Feast of First Fruits. I'm upset with him about what Naya has revealed to me. He finds out Naya revealed it to me. And this is the first time that I witnessed with my own eyes him assault her. we were getting ready to leave. By this point, a majority of the school had cleared out. It was pretty much just, I think like 1 or 2 brothers that were straggling, but they were getting ready to get in their car and take off. Hassan was there, myself, Naya, all of the kids, and you know, I got upset, got in my car, got ready to leave. Of course, he's screaming and yelling because of how I'm reacting to the information that I've heard. So he's, you know, he's upset. I'm getting ready to leave. I close my door. Of course, he's angry that I'm angry, that he's a liar, and he puts 2 dents in my car, which I still have to this day. He never did fix that. While he's talking about buying Janae a new car.
The one thing you ain't gonna do is play with me and talk about you take care of my kids and you take care of me, because bitch, you gonna take care of me. You never bought my fucking new car, bitch, and I'm really pissed about that. I should come flat your fucking tires and make sure ass. So that's what I'm mad about. And then you talking about mad because ruffle some feathers because you was in Cancun. Adonis, you know personally, bitch, I've been to Cancun 6 times or more.
You still haven't fixed the dents you put in my car, but whatever. So, I'm mad. I take off. Now, mind you, at this point, they only had 1 car, or they might have had 2 at the time. But Naya was drinking, so he just brought 1 car with him. I had my own car, so I left. They were arguing in the parking lot. And then I got a call from Naya. You know, she's upset. She's screaming. She's like, he threw a beer at me, or the beer that I had, he threw it at me, or something like that. I'm not understanding, but she's telling me to come back and get her. There's a lot of yelling and screaming in the background. So I turn around, and I get back to the parking lot, and in time to witness him pull her out of the car by her hair, fling her over to the side, and then toss Kyrie's car seat. That's the baby that she was pregnant with when they reconciled. And, you know, he was obviously with her at the time. And, you know, kind of got back around and, you know, got in his side of the, you know, the driver's seat. The kids were in the car. He kept the older 2 kids that they have together in the car with him. Assad was there. He witnessed everything. And, you know, I took her and brought her back with me to the Airbnb. She had a chunk of her hair missing. So it was a big thing. I had reached out to the elder Shalawam for counsel because she was scared of going back to the house for obvious reasons. You know, whatever. So, we ended up having a counsel, and, in that counsel as well, something else that was brought up was, because Naya had been asking for counsels for stuff for some time, but obviously she's not in the truth. She doesn't really know who to call. He could easily just tell her no. So, you know, I reached out to the elder, Shalawam, and he did our counsel. My husband finally agreed, although he was disagreeing before, but when, you know, we were kind of a united front, myself and Naya, he had no choice but to, you know, let it happen, because I told him I'm going to call the elder anyway. You can't just put your hands on her. You can't do what you've done. We need to speak to somebody. So, we had that whole counsel or whatever. So, you know, obviously everybody reconciles. This is what happens. Weird shit would happen all the time. A lot of things would just be swept under the rug, and never really resolved. So now during this time, this cuck fetish is still a thing. Again, it's all always fantasy. I know he was talking to Naya about it as well in terms of text messages and things, and, you know, she would reach out to me sometimes and be like, you know, he's talking about this white guy shit again and blah, blah, blah. You know, we kind of laugh it off like, girl, you know, you gonna get that up off him. It's, you know, it's gonna take some time. At this point, it's semi under control. It's still happening, but it's semi under control, and it's still fantasy to this point. So fast forward to Passover, I believe might have been 2022. I was pregnant, and I'm missing something. So also within the counsel that I did with Elder Shalawam, something else that was brought up was Naya's concerns about how inappropriate he was being with her sister. I guess Naya was very good for going through his phone. My husband he doesn't put passcodes on his phone. He doesn't feel like he should have to, which I guess he's right, he doesn't. He's just that confident about just doing whatever it is he wants and not giving a damn whether one of his wives were to go through his phone and see it. I think I went through his phone one time. Never did it again after that. I would highly advise sisters not to do that. Tell them that all the time. Even if you have the opportunity to go through that man's phone, don't go through his phone unless you're prepared to find exactly what you're looking for. So anyway, she had gone through his phone and had seen that he was sending inappropriate text messages to her sister, her blood sister. And, you know, as much as she didn't necessarily know a whole lot in terms of scripture, believe it or not, she knew that he wasn't allowed to, like, do anything with her sister. Like, that's her blood sister. Like, wasn't that off limits? Which, of course, I confirmed with her. Yes, that's your blood sister. He's not supposed to, you know, have sex with her or sleep with her or anything. We talked to the elder, brought it up to the elder. Of course, he's telling the elder, like, yeah, you know, I was saying, you know, inappropriate things in, you know, an Instagram message or something like that, but I would never do anything with her. Like, you know, they're just complaining about something that hasn't even happened or whatever the case may be. So, you know, of course, the elder's telling us, well, you know, he knows he's not supposed to do that or whatever. You know, do y'all really believe that he would sleep with her sister? And we're both like, yeah. Which shocked the elder that we both were like, yeah, we do. We believe that he would do it. And there's a multitude of reasons, but obviously I'm trying not to make this video 6 hours long. So there's some things I have to skip over, but just know that we had a reason to believe that he would do it. So fast forward, that situation happens. I get pregnant, and I think I was about maybe 14 weeks, at the time. It's about 14 weeks at the time. And literally the day after Passover, not only did I lose my baby, I lost part of my reproductive organs. And I bled out maybe about 4 liters of blood. I had what's called an ectopic rupture, meaning the baby, the pregnancy was in my fallopian tube. And I hadn't gone to the doctor yet. Once I found out we were pregnant, I still hadn't set up a doctor's appointment, which was so strange. I don't even know why. To this day, I couldn't tell you why I didn't. Because had I, you know, went to the doctor, they would have, you know, did an ultrasound, or they would have seen that the baby was in my tubes, and obviously taken measures to remove the baby from my tube so that it would stop growing, because it obviously can't grow in the tube. There was no chance of saving that pregnancy, either way it went. But so the baby was in my tube, but because I hadn't gone to the doctor, I didn't realize that the baby was in my tube. So what happened was the baby kept growing, or, you know, kept growing in my tube, and essentially ruptured my fallopian tube, causing me to bleed out internally. And I didn't even know that's what was happening. We were actually supposed to do a whole testimony video about this, but it wasn't as important to my husband as it was to me. But a couple of sisters I've told this testimony to, so that was kind of a trauma for me in terms of Passover and taking Passover unworthily. But when I talked to him about it, what he told me was that the reason that happened was because of something that he had done that the Most High wanted blood for. Now, if I just go back a little bit, Naya had also been pregnant maybe a couple of months before that, and she had also lost the baby. And for some reason, nobody can really explain, she bled for a really long time after that. And so when this had happened with me, he said the situation with Naya, losing the baby, and then having that unexplained bleeding for so long, and then the same with me, he said that that was due to something that he did that the Most High wanted blood for. At that point, he had told me that whatever it was that he did was the reason that what had happened to me and what had happened to Naya had happened. At that time, he never told me what it was. He never went into it. And I accepted it. What a lot of people have to understand is some of the stuff that you guys are finding out now, in terms of like Shamila, which is the blood sister of Naya, the one that he slept with. I did not know until everything came out. That's why when I'm hearing people saying, well, she knew this kind of stuff, why would she just wait till now to bring it out? There's a lot of stuff I didn't know about. All of the other sisters, some of the additional evidence from throughout the years, sisters who have been solicited in one way or another, like the sister in Philly, that evidence was also provided. Things like that I didn't know about. I didn't find out about those things until you guys found out about those things. So, in hindsight now, when I think about the timeline from my understanding, I believe that him sleeping with Naya's sister is what he was talking about. But I could be wrong. Anyway, so that happens, and of course I'm gutted by that, by losing my baby, not understanding why. So then there was a time span where we were trying to conceive again. Had tons of issues with that, obviously. Now I have one less fallopian tube. I'm older. Oh boy. I'm older. Oh no. Serafina. I'm screwed. She is up. So have some issues with conceiving all throughout this now. There's just tons of just issues and, you know, different things going on, and issues with his marriage with Naya, and, you know, other things that are going on, just the usual weird stuff that he expected me to just see and be aware of and just act like I didn't see it. The things he wanted me to just sweep under the rug and like not act like they were sin, not act like certain things didn't walk with the Bible. Like, that's what made me disrespectful. That's what made me disagreeable. That's the truth of the matter. Of course, he'll deny that, but at this point, I'm his only wife that's actually in the truth. Where you going? No. Oh my God. Ariella, can you blur her out? Let's put you under this. Can you blur her out? I don't even know if you can blur her out. You gonna lay right here? So yeah, so I went through a lot, and actually one of the sisters who, House of Carnivore, the sister Mayum, she walked with me through a lot of this stuff, man. Some stuff I'm not even gonna bring up. But she knows the hell I went through. She knows the ways that I was tormented. Simply for not wanting to go along with a lot of stuff, calling out things that were weird because they were weird, calling out things that didn't make sense considering who he was and what he taught. That's what made me disrespectful. That's what made me disagreeable, according to him. And I'm not saying that I'm the easiest. I'm not saying I was just this perfect wife who was just, you know, like, no, I have my moments. I can be, you know, aggressive. I can be, you know, assertive. I can, you know, but he knew that. And like y'all heard him say out of his own mouth, he liked that. So you know, him now using that as the excuse for why he allegedly put me out, which quite frankly I'd love to see biblically where he can just put me out. I want to see in the law where he can just put his wife and his children out because the wife is disrespectful and disagreeable. You had a wife who committed adultery. Like, did you put her and your children out in the streets? No. The time that there was whatever that domestic violence thing was or whatever, and Naya left, you ended up paying the rent at the place that she moved to. So, you know, whatever. It was just stuff like that, weird stuff like that he would expect me to act like wasn't weird, and didn't make me feel some sort of way, and didn't make me question his leadership, and didn't make me question him, and didn't make me trust him less. Again, like I'm telling y'all, there's a whole lot of other things that I'm just not bringing up because we don't have that kind of time. So fast forward, I get pregnant with Serafina, our baby girl, our youngest out of the two that we have, and those times were a little bit better. Things were a little bit better in the family. Me and Naya were kind of on better terms. At one point I was, you know, trying to teach her and do Bible studies with her and try to establish, you know, monthly meetings to kind of, you know, figure out his schedule, see where she needed help, where I needed help, you know, match our schedules up together, you know when he's going to be out of town, you know, things like that. Just trying to make things better as a unit. Of course, all those things fell through because as our husband, he didn't make it his priority to structure things, you know. He was more of a leader to y'all than he was to us.
To all my brothers in Sakari who are hurt, I love you niggas. I wouldn't trade none of you niggas for the world. If y'all got to bag up, I understand. Unlike other situations, I'm not going to have the harsh judgment that I would because I understand the gravity of this situation. I understand, you know, how negative of a look this is. And, you know, it was an honor serving you niggas, honor teaching you niggas. You know, man, this shit is my life, man. And I put you niggas before my kids, nigga. I put you niggas before everything, man. I put you niggas before everything, man.
He was more of a leader to y'all than he was to us. So I'm pregnant. Come to find out, Naya's also pregnant. Well, pregnant at the time, obviously. I'm sure you guys have seen that Passover picture. I know, respect the shooter. We were both pregnant at the same time. Naya was maybe about 3 or 4 months ahead of me. And this thing is going on the whole time. In terms of, as far as I know, with he and I, in terms of just conversation and text messaging and things like that. Things that continuously escalated, obviously, where, you know, it got to the point where it was overwhelming to me at times. It was just kind of like, can we just not talk about this? Or, you know, I'll make a comment to him just like, you know, I wish you were here more or something like that. And, you know, that would turn into, oh, this is why you need a boyfriend, you know, stuff like that. So he's right. Everything was fantasy until it wasn't. So fast forward to I believe my Serafina was about 4 months old, and I got a phone call from my sister wife Naya, which is the first wife, the one that he came into the truth with. And she is upset. Now, mind you, before this, she had just given a birth. Maybe, you know, like I said, she was about 3 to 4 months further along than I was. She had given birth. Excuse me. And she was going through a lot of, you know, different things, and, you know, whatever struggles they were going on or had going on with their marriage and things like that. Now, mind you, there's a lot of things I don't even know is happening. So when she's reaching out to me prior to this phone call, she seems really low in the spirit. She's, you know, she's saying things like, you know, I can't do this anymore. Like, you know, you guys should just do, I can't do this Israelite thing anymore. Just, you know, and I didn't understand it too much then. Obviously, I understand it now. Thank you, Mama. So, leading up to the phone call, she had just been acting really strange, and so leading up to the phone call, she was, Serafina, come on, can you go watch Megamind, please, so I can finish this? Go watch Megamind, or you have to lay still, okay? I know, Mama. Go through, go to sleep. So one night she calls me. Serafina's about 4 months old, maybe between 3 to 4 months old, and she calls me. Naya calls me, and she's upset. She's crying on the phone. She's calling me from a number I don't even recognize. She's crying on the phone. She's upset. Yes. So Naya calls me. She's upset. She's crying on the phone. She's telling me something about her cousin, and that, you know, Adonis, obviously by now y'all knows is Chief. That's his government name. Adonis is, you know, he had sex with my cousin, and he paid her to dominate him and all types of stuff. And I'm in shock. I'm just like, what? Because at this time, sexual activity for the most part had ceased, obviously because of the separation time, you know, from when, you know, I had my daughter. And, you know, just that, and then I had our son as well, and, you know, I didn't have time, nor did I want to really entertain even text conversations or anything like that, so I wasn't entertaining it at all at this time. So, she says all this, she's talking about she's gonna expose him, and this, that, and the third, and I'm in shock, because I'm like, what? Why would he? Mind you, this is the cousin I had been concerned about. This is the cousin that I had said I didn't think it was a good idea for him to be around, etc., etc. So I call him. I remember having Sarah in her carrier on the front of my chest. She was in her carrier. Girl. So, Naya calls me. She tells me about what allegedly has happened between my husband and her cousin. Of course, I'm like, what? She's like, he's now not giving me the kids. He's telling me I can't take the kids. I'm leaving. Blah blah blah. So I get on the phone with him, and I'm like, what is going on? That's when it's revealed to me. Like I said before, it was all fantasy until it wasn't. He reveals to me on the call that Naya he had created accounts for Naya on, I guess, Tinder, and I don't know, what other platform, whatever it was, or app it was that they used. But she had been entertaining the fetish at a larger scale than I ever had. She had actually logged into these accounts. She had actually started corresponding with these white men. And unbeknownst to him, and even admittingly, even from her, she met up with one of the men, and sex or something or whatever happened, and she contracted an STD from it. From what he said was that although he knew she was talking to people, he never intended for her to actually go out there and do that. I call bullshit, because you know her, you know what she has the propensity to do, you know her background, so whatever. I think he exploited that part of her that he knew very, very well existed. Again, I'm telling y'all, he was escalating, and I saw it, and this is what I was concerned about. This is what I was worried about, that continuing to be around certain people and certain things were only going to feed this thing more. And what I had been doing in terms of just within the confines of our own marriage bed and text messages and whatever else was not going to be enough. And later on after this, he had actually told me that I was his methadone. So if you know what methadone is, usually when like a heroin addict is trying to, come off of heroin, you can't just cold turkey a heroin addict. You're more likely to kill them from withdrawal symptoms if you do it that way. So what they'll give you is a synthetic form of the drug, which is methadone, to taper the addict off the heroin. So, for reference, just to help y'all understand, the cuck fetish was the heroin. I was the methadone that was trying to get him off the heroin. But at this particular time, because I wasn't entertaining it, and for whatever reason, he said I fit the bill better than anybody else. And because I wasn't entertaining him, Naya became his methadone. Unfortunately, Naya became the methadone laced with fentanyl, because she actually did the shit. She actually went out and did the shit. So he tells me that he did not know that she was going to do it. He knew that she was talking to people, but she had did it while he was out of town. At this point, they're just telling on each other now. He's mad that she's cutting up. She's mad that he did whatever with the cousin, whatever. And so he's telling me, yes, and she told you that. Did she tell you that she went and slept with this dude and And I'm like, no, she didn't tell me that. And that an STD was contracted. This was one of the things that the elder talked to me about when I told him about this years ago. He said that that I shouldn't go back because there need to be therapy, something needed to happen, because this kind of thing leads to a spirit of prostitution. It can lead to disease, etc., etc., etc. So, of course, all my worst fears are coming true. Mind you, by the time I found out that this had even been going on, like this had apparently occurred when I was about 7 or 8 months pregnant. Naya was sleeping or dealing with white men. Unbeknownst to me, he was still sexually active with both of us while I'm pregnant, allowing her, or even planting the seed for her to go and do what she did, contract an STD, and introduce that to my womb while I am pregnant. I did not know about that. I didn't even know what was going on. I only found out till Sarah was about 4 months old. So then he tells me that she's, that the thing did happen with the cousin, but he never actually did anything. He only paid her to do the domination portion of it, So while he's sitting here saying the domination thing, oh, this was all Masalah, and this was if you look into the cuck fetish, first of all, one of the components of it is domination. That's the point. That's a part of, I did the things that I was comfortable with, a part of the fetish outside of crossing those lines, which clearly wasn't enough. People could feel however they want to feel about it. I got bad advice because I advised myself. This is what happens when we're denied counsel. Where things like this, I could not go to elders about, considering who my husband is. Or at least I couldn't go to, elders about, you know, at this stage. Because of course at this point I'm like, we need counsel, you know. But of course he's denying me it. And he had been denying me counsel for this specific thing. So he also tells me, you know, now she's taken off because there's another guy that she was also talking to. Apparently somebody allegedly that she knew prior to, and she had rekindled, he happens to be white, she had rekindled the relationship with at the time, and that she was taken off with him or whatever and leaving. So pretty much what happened was he allowed her to rekindle this relationship just in conversation, because you have to understand this is a part of the fetish. What he got from it was simply, okay, mama, stop. What he got from it was pretty much just, you know, knowing the details of the relationship and things like that. So he allowed her to also, I guess, go back to talking to this other white guy. So during this time, he also tells me that the only reason why the thing happened with the cousin, which he said they never had sex, they never actually did anything, that it was all just in text message conversation. Because remember, I'm out of commission. His methadone is out of commission. He has to find. So at that time that year, Naya was the methadone. However, the problem is Naya's far too submissive. Right? Far too submissive to do the domination portion of the fetish. So Naya suggested her cousin do it, because her cousin had experience with it. Now, to be fair, this is not Naya's blood cousin. This is just somebody who she's known, I guess, all her life. So you know how we are with that. You know, somebody who's been a part of our life for a long time. You know, they may be our friends, but we consider them family. So apparently Naya had actually suggested her own cousin to do it, right? Like, this is the kind of weird shit that I'm surrounded around. This is the reason that I didn't trust him. This is the reason that I was disagreeable and disrespectful, because I know who he is. Y'all know Gorilla Hebrew. I know Adonis. He gets to spin narratives behind the scenes. So all throughout this time, all these things are happening during these years and stuff. Like, I'm isolating myself more. Like, I'm less comfortable, going around sisters, because I know the kind of shit that's going on. Like, I'm burdened by it. Like, I feel terrible about it. I feel like I shouldn't be around the sisters. Like, and when I'm around these people, these sisters that I call my friends, like, I can't even tell them what's going on. Like, I'd have to, because of who my husband is, who was I supposed to go to? While y'all talking, who's I supposed to go tell? Niggas that call him a church father? Who's I supposed to go tell? In the community. Particularly when this happened. Because this is the catalyst to why we are where we are right now. Because everything was fantasy until it was no longer fantasy. That's what changed. That's what made everything worse. Because he actually did it. And to make matters worse, he opened me up to disease. The STD that she caught was chlamydia. That chlamydia could have easily been HIV. While I may have been entertaining some things, my legs were closed to everyone but my husband. So, find out about the cousin and things like that. And then also I found out about this other dude. And that's apparently who she's taken off with. So pretty much what happened was his plan backfired on him. What he wanted out of that was simply for her to, what was it that he said? He just wanted her to, He just wanted her to be a little slut here and there, but she chose legitimately the boyfriend route. My husband said he wanted to be cucked, not dumped, and Naya dumped him. She fell in love with the second white boy that he knew about. So while he was saying to me, oh God, man. So I found out this other relationship he was aware of as well. So when he told me that you know, the first incident with the other first white dude was not, you know, he hadn't told her to do that, like he didn't expect her to do that, whatever, which again I call bullshit on. But what made it even more apparent that that was exactly what he wanted was the fact that once he found out that she had actually done it and that wasn't what he had wanted, why then would he then continue to allow her to entertain this other white guy, knowing what she had the propensity to do the first time? Like, wouldn't you put a stop to everything right then and there? No, he continued to allow that relationship, and it backfired on him, because he would have been satisfied if the relationship had continued. You know, he got his rocks off by knowing the nitty-gritty details, as long as she continued to be his prop. Continue to show up to these high holy days, continue to, you know, posture as his wife and things like that in front of the community, but behind closed doors, she doing whatever she's doing. He would have been fine. The problem is the plan backfired on him, and she fell in love with the dude. It's funny now when I think about it, because it's so absurd, and I feel so stupid for having believed that I had the ability to help the kind of demon that's on him. Like, I really thought that, and I believe part of it was due to manipulation. I think that there was a veil over my eyes for a long time, and when this happened, the veil was lifted. This destroyed his family. He lost one wife due to it. He introduced diseases to me. Naya took off to be with this white guy, who I later found out had already moved down here, was living at her sister's house, and I guess paying rent to rent a room there or something like that. There was a time for months that she was back and forth, like he was giving her grace on the situation, giving her the opportunity to come to her senses and leave dude alone and come back home. This whole time, though, he's not letting her take the kids. He's holding the kids because he doesn't want his kids around this white guy or whatever, considering what he's taught them their whole lives, which is just crazy, because it's like, you don't want them around the white man that you allowed their mother to be with, essentially. Like, it's absurd. And of course, then the responsibility of being the wife now, once everything is gone, once everything is crazy, now it's, okay, well, now I'm not letting her take the kids. And Masalah, now you got to take the kids full time. Mind you, she just had a baby and I just had a baby. We still got 2 infants. We have our son, who, by the way, many people may not know, because as much as he act like he wants his kids, I don't see him talking about his autistic son. While he's talking about Captain and Captain hiding his son allegedly, or playing whatever, or daughter, and playing whatever clip it was that he played when he threw up that smoke screen against ISUPK. How many people know you have an autistic son? Oh. So, on top of that, and the damage that it had done to our marriage, like, I was overwhelmed. I was like, I don't understand how, based off what you guys have done, now the consequences of your actions need to be visited on everybody else. Now the kids are separated from their mother. Our marriage is in shambles. Your marriage with her is in shambles. She's kind of back and forth. he is actively still trying to woo her and reconcile and talk her back into the home, because now he has the kids full time. You know, the brothers are over there. I know the brothers saw the back and forth. Y'all may not understand, but maybe y'all understand more now what the hell was going on. He was giving her time to get the adultery out of her system and decided she wanted to come back home. He was giving her time. Taking her on dates, spending $2,000 while she was actively fucking a white guy. That's the kind of shit that I'm dealing with. That's the kind of stuff that's going on behind closed doors. While he's spinning whatever narrative he's spinning to the Akim about me and my behavior and why I'm now standoffish and why I don't want to be as helpful with the children, because the narrative he spun for her about her to them was her just taking off and being a deadbeat. When in reality, she took off to be with a white man because you pushed her into the arms of a white man because it sexually gratified you. The only problem was your plan backfired and she fell in love. So obviously our marriage is in shambles. Now I don't trust him. Now I'm scared. I don't know what his motivations are for anything. I don't know what's going on. I have virtually a newborn. We have my son who's almost like having 2 children. I have my daughter who's getting ready to phase into going off to college. Like, when I found out, which something I also saw somebody say, why did she leave? I've been financially handicapped by this man for years. Now, I'm not saying like, he wanted me to be a stay-at-home mom, so obviously financially I was dependent on him. I just had a baby. Where was I going to go? What was I going to do? Who was I going to go to for counsel? Who was I going to go to for counsel about the man who counsels them? See, everybody seems to think this is such an easy situation. This is the remedy to this was so easy. I should have just went to counsel. I should have left him. I should have. So everybody acts as if they would have known how to handle the situation, or the answers to how to handle this situation should have been so easy. You're also not married to Gorilla Hebrew. So obviously a situation happens. It has just far-reaching effects. Like, this was the catalyst to where we are right now. So from the moment all of those things went down, man, it was like just a domino effect that affected everything. It got in the way of everything. It made me isolate more. It made me not want to be around him more. It made me stop watching. I stopped watching him teach. Like, it destroyed his family. And he acts like it didn't even happen. He'll come on camera and tell y'all, I didn't whore out my wife. I didn't whore out my, he didn't say wives. I think he said I didn't whore out my wife. You have to understand that when he said that, he was being slick. No, you didn't whore me out because I didn't let you. That doesn't mean that you didn't try. But you did whore Naya out. And you know you did. And I'm going to prove it. So you lied. So obviously months go by. Work. Oh my God. It's just impossible, dude. Impossible. Girl, what do you want? She don't even want nothing. Okay, you gonna go over there and mess with something? Cool. Sounds like fun. So, okay, so, Obviously this has had crazy effects. People even who, you know, in the YouTube classes and stuff like that. There was one moment that I was there and I was active and then I disappeared. Pay attention to the timing for that. There was a reason for that. I stopped watching him teach. I lost a lot of respect for him. I stopped trusting him. So yeah, I started being more disagreeable and more disrespectful and questioning everything. Because you're a liar. You are a liar. And you're shameless. And that you have zero shame. Because you'll get up here and you will still try to make me seem like the culprit in all of this, the bad guy on all of this, and you know what you've done. The Most High knows what you've done. And although I feel like in some ways where we are now may have been mishandled, and the majority of that blame is on me, quite frankly, because had I not said anything, nobody would know. Because for the record, Israel, this cuckold fetish was brought to you guys before. Tiffany, the first wife in the truth, she told y'all this before. A video was made before. Again, this is not something, I didn't find out about this till after everything came out. So for y'all acting like, oh, why you ain't saying nothing then? Why you wait? This has been brought out before and y'all ignored it. And I was also being told by my husband that I could not go for counsel. Even after this thing happened, like, I wanted counsel. Like, I was like, this has gone way too far. We need counsel. We need to speak to somebody. And of course, I was denied. So then I'm like, I want to leave. I want to go. I'm done. I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. But of course, there's the, you're not taking my kids, and, you know, you'll be excommunicated, and and we need to try this instead, and let's, you know, it's not going to happen again, and blah, 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 whatever. So there was an extended period of time where it was very much a back and forth. There were times I'm like, you know, he's saying it's not going to happen anymore. Certain behaviors I don't have to worry about anymore. Like, you know, I can try. I mean, I just had another baby. I'm an Israelite. I'm in the truth. Can he repent from this? Yes. So then I should try. So I tried. But I think the effects of this were a hell of a lot. So, let me try to shift it so she's not so much in the camera. So, of course, yeah, I was more disagreeable. I was disrespectful because I questioned everything. I question you if I question you before, I question you 10 times more. So yeah, that made me disrespectful. That made me disagreeable. Naya wasn't disagreeable. Naya was more submissive. Naya went with the flow. Naya was down for the crown. Deacon knows what that means. Maybe a lot of y'all know. I don't understand that lingo. I mean, I understand it, but the crown I'm down with ain't that crown. And with Naya being all that and not disrespectful and disagreeable, that was the wife that you were able to get to sleep with white men. So I think I'm okay with not being that version of a wife that you wanted, because it's clear that you would have simply taken advantage of that. And you almost did. You almost got me to a point where I felt like just being with somebody else or just doing what you wanted, which you clearly wanted, was better than having to be in a marriage with a man who would rather see me with white men than with him. It destroyed my self-esteem. It made me insecure. It destroyed our marriage, and he knows it destroyed our marriage. It destroyed me, and he knows it destroyed me. So Anyway, fast forward. So kind of back and forth. I'm saying I want to leave. Of course, he's not wanting me to leave. I don't really necessarily want to leave, but I kind of feel like I don't have a choice. So there's a lot of back and forth on that with him. And it's just as time went on, things just weren't getting better. And then fast forward to the Passover before this last Passover. Now knowing everything that I know, dealing with all the things we're dealing with behind the scenes, Naya's still actively in the midst of adultery, and then she gets pregnant. Up until the point where she got pregnant, he was still trying to reconcile with her. Like, he was still doing for her, still paying her phone bill. She's actively back and forth. Sometimes she'd be at the house with him and the kids, and then she decide she want to go back to her boyfriend. So then she'd go back over there. And of course, he said that he had to have grace in giving her time to decide what she wanted to do, because after all, he was the seed. He was the one that planted the seed that sprouted to the point that she was doing the things that she was doing. So he couldn't just be like, you know, forget about her. But then she got pregnant, so of course that changes the whole ball game. He already has one child from adultery underneath his roof. Ain't no way he can allow her to give birth to another child conceived out of adultery, and this baby is an Edomite. So what he told me was, you know, he wanted to give her the opportunity to come back, but if she had this baby, there was just no chance, because obviously she can't come to no high holy days with no white baby. To the Akim that lived in the house and were there helping with the kids and kind of saw that back and forth. That's what was going on, y'all. I know it's been told that he has been more transparent with the enablers around him. Did he tell you that? So then, not too long after I find this out, one day he texts me, I took another wife. Nigga, you what? Your marriage is in shambles. Now, mind you, from the moment I found this out, all types of things started happening. Things within the congregation, and, you know, YouTube channels getting taken down. To me, I saw it as judgment. He didn't recognize it as judgment, or at least he didn't entirely, whatever. So then he tells me one day he took another wife. Of course, I'm in shock. He took another wife. Now, with all of these things that are going on, you took another wife? What kind of wife did you take? Like, I'm concerned now. So I reach out to Naya. And Naya sends me a picture of the sister. Now, this is the sister Janae, my sister wife, which really was rent a rib. No disrespect to her. If there was anybody I would have ever expected out of all of my sister wives, that would have probably been the last one I would expect it to come to the internet and just keep it a buck. She's a better Israelite than you, Adonis. So Naya sends me a picture of her. I'm sure maybe you guys have probably seen her Instagram by now or seen pictures of her, but she does not look like an Israelite. Or dressed like an Israelite or whatever. Of course, now I'm concerned, because I'm like, what? I'm concerned about his motivations now. I'm concerned that he's seeking out this specific spirit again, because this thing is on him. It's clearly heavy, and I'm worried that he's going to do this shit again. So I do my own research. I simply Google the sister's name. I cannot tell you to this day why I put OnlyFans next to it. Immediately her OnlyFans pops up. My discernment is disrespectful to my husband. My discernment is disagreeable to my husband. I knew it. From the moment I saw the OnlyFans, which he said he didn't know about, he didn't even know it existed. When I called him and I told him about it, and I'm like, is this what we're doing? Why you got a wife that has an OnlyFans? What are you getting ready to do? Like, I'm tired of this shit. Like, and of course, what she's still learning. She's still here you go again. I'm not even thinking about doing stuff but whatever. And he said he didn't know about the OnlyFans. He would have never married a woman with an OnlyFans page. He would have never married a whore, which is what he said. Obviously, he can say stuff like that because he knows. And I may not know everything, but I know enough of the law to know that a priest can't marry a whore. He told me he didn't know that she had an OnlyFans page, which is interesting to me. What kind of courting did you do, priest? Considering everything that has just happened, what kind of Serafina? Thank you. You gotta chill. You gotta chill. Girl, like, go to sleep. You know, what kind of courting did you do? What kind of vetting did you do that you don't know that the woman that you took as a wife has an OnlyFans page? So he tells me, he's like, I need to see proof. I need to see proof of this. Like, what are you talking about? I sent him the proof. Then he's like, no, I didn't know about this. He's like, let me see what's up there. Literally, while he's on the phone with me, he pays the price to see what his wife has on OnlyFans. I can't make this stuff up. Serafina. So he pays, finds out what she has up there. He says it's like 2 videos. She's just in her bra and underwear. She hasn't posted anything since 2022 or something like that. But it's still active and verified. Whatever anybody pays for it, like, she's gonna get that money. So whatever. But he said she hadn't posted anything for a while. So he says she hasn't posted anything for a while. He didn't know about it, whatever. He's gonna talk to her, whatever. So of course I'm already halfway out the door. I'm tired of being lied to. I'm tired of things being kept from me. I think he's full of shit. I think he knew about the page. He didn't give a damn because he's searching and he's seeking after a certain kind of spirit. Women willing to do certain things as long as they benefit monetarily. And I said that to him. I guess that makes me disrespectful and disagreeable. Turns out I was right. So yes. Girl, I am not laughing with you, Seraphine. I'm really not. So it's just a lot of weird stuff going on. So anyways, fast forward to the Passover. I didn't want to be there. I didn't feel like it was right. I didn't want to play his game, which was show up, be a prop, act like everything's great, act like you don't have this huge weight on your shoulders. And by the way, the first time I met Janae was at the Passover. I literally have so much turmoil going on in my brain. I don't even want to be there, but I have to be there, obviously. But I didn't want to eat the lamb. I didn't want to perform for the face of men like he wanted me to. He didn't want to show up at the Passover after having Passover previously with both his wives being pregnant. And then now this Passover, you only got one wife. So whatever. I think he kind of hit the gas on that situation quickly so he wouldn't have to be at Passover with only one wife. Because at this point, y'all, this is wife number 6. Y'all keeping track? Me, Tiffany, Naya, Parshay, Kaylee, and now Janae. And I'm essentially the last one standing. Girl, you want to be in the camera so bad, bro. You want to be in the camera so bad. You don't know what to do with yourself. So, really, Hebrew can't show up to this Passover. It's probably one of the biggest Passovers we've had. Down a wife? What's going on? This man who charges for marriage counsels. He can't keep a wife. Surely we can all be disagreeable and disrespectful. So, Passover comes around. My thought that I'm thinking of is the Passover where I almost died after eating the lamb unworthily. The very next day, I was in the hospital fighting for my life. I lost part of my reproductive organs. Almost lost my life. I was so scared. And I was so stressed out. But I had to show up yet again to another high holy day, and I had to put on. So it was such a weight for me even being there, and I couldn't sit there amongst everybody, and you know, the whole congregations and sisters I counseled and eat the lamb. I couldn't do it, and I told him I couldn't do it beforehand. I told him I'd rather do the makeup Passover in the privacy of my own home. Like, I'm not ready for this. You may be ready for this because you got to put on a show and you got to, you know, go through the motions. I can't do it because of the things that I've experienced, the way the Most High has dealt with me. I cannot do it. So I tried to be discreet about it. He made a big deal because I wouldn't sit down and you know, be in front of the cameras and take the lamb in front of everybody and look like one big happy family. I didn't play his game. To the Akim that were around. Maybe I didn't really understand what was going on. I'm sure he spit whatever narrative to you, and you probably still feel like he was justified for the way that he dealt with me, but it's all good. It's all good. So anyways, ended up taking the makeup Passover by myself. That's a whole other story. But so fast forward, everything was pretty much downhill from that point. Of course, he was infuriated with me, made tons of threats, but still wouldn't let me leave. Like, he would threaten me and, you know, tell me to leave out, or go to my sister's house or something like that, but he still wouldn't let me leave and go back home like I had been requesting. So, I mean, our marriage at that point was pretty much over. It was just a matter of what the next steps were going to be, because we have 2 children together. It's not going to be an easy transition. So anyways, without getting into all the nitty-gritty details of the couple of months leading up into... So fast forward to the phone call. So this particular phone call, Janae mentioned in her live. This phone call, I believe, was in November of 2024. Now, mind you, during this time, obviously everybody knows the Genesis split occurred. So that was also going on. If you ask me, all of this is judgment. All of it. He doesn't see it that way. That's fine. So during this time, right before the phone call, obviously things are all over the place. We're between talking about reconciliation, and we're arguing about things, and, you know, he's not going to re-sign the lease, and I'm thinking I'm going to go, and then we're trying to fix. So it was just a bunch of back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But at that point in time, he was still not okaying me just leaving and going home. So then fast forward to November of 2024. He calls me, and he tells me that he has Janae and Naya on the other line, and they want to talk to me. Apparently, Naya had gone through his phone, which she had done many times in the past. Apparently, she did this during the time she was kind of back and forth between the houses, because he still needed help with the kids, but he wasn't allowing her to take the kids to wherever she was with the white guy. But she was still coming down and helping. So, you know, during those times, I guess when he would take a nap or something, you know, she went into his phone. Naya and Janae had talked at some point in time, and pretty much the narrative that he had spun about Naya to, you know, the occupant, whoever was around, was that she was just pretty much a deadbeat who was taken off, you know, being wicked Eve, you know, whatever. And he had told that he pretty much gave the same narrative to Janae. And Naya got sick of that shit. So she went and compiled all the evidence out of his phone, including additional things that even Naya didn't know about, until she went into his phone that I've been telling him for years to lock. And compiled all this evidence to prove to Janae that he was a liar, and that's not why she left, and what had led up to her leaving, and the real reason that he wouldn't let her take the kids, etc., etc. So Janae pretty much wanted me on the phone to confirm some things. So he called me first. He had them on the other line. He kind of prepped me before the call to kind of, you know, water some things down or whatever. Like, I could be honest to an extent, but, you know, water some things down, because obviously he didn't want Janae to know certain details. So get on the phone with her and Naya. We start talking. Obviously things come out. Some stuff came out that he didn't want to come out. And I confirmed that these things were in fact true. He abruptly hangs up the phone. Remember, he's the one that called us all. So once he hangs up the phone, the whole call is over. I wasn't going to let him get away that easy, because I had found out some more stuff on that phone call that I didn't even know about. While he's telling me to trust him, he's trying to reconcile, and he's still doing shit, just weird shit that I'm not even aware of. We don't need to get into the details of that. I don't have that kind of time. So after he hangs up, I'm like, whatever, that's fine. I send Janae my number in Instagram, and she calls me. We end up having a very long phone conversation where I discovered some additional things, things I didn't even know before, things that he was doing and soliciting other women for the same kind of shit behind my back. Women he told me he would never introduce this to anybody else. He would never, whatever. That was just a lie, per usual. There was more evidence, and then I found out things about Janae as well. Just kind of, you know, when her baby daddy came into town, because she has two older kids as well. But when one of her baby daddies, or her baby daddy, I don't know, if both of them have the same dad, I don't know. But one of her baby daddies comes into town, he's allowed to stay at her house. My husband allows this. Now, she said they don't have a relationship, they don't whatever, that's fine, but he's allowed to stay at her house when he's in town. If anybody ever brought something like that to my husband in counsel, there's no way he would advise a brother that that's okay. So when I said something to my husband about it, his response was that it's for the comfortability of the child. And also because he doesn't pay the rent there. Like, nigga, is she your wife or not? I knew it. And Janae all but confirmed it. I knew what it was. So after finding out even more stuff from Janae and whatever, which I'll get into if I have to at some point. But I'm pretty much like, at this point, dude, I'm done. I want to go home. I'm sick of this. I can't trust you. It's clear you still have this spirit on you and you're going to continue to do things behind the scenes. And since I can't go to anybody for counsel and I want to go home. And he consented. He essentially took an Alfoyd plea. Like, I'm not going to admit that I'm all the way wrong, but I'm going to agree that you have enough evidence at this point to leave. However, I don't want it to be forever. We can just call it a separation, you know, but I understand why you want to leave at this point. I get it. You know, it's a lot, whatever, which is why I think it's so crazy that he's now saying that he put me out for being disrespectful and disagreeable. You consented to me leaving. Okay, I'm gonna try to wrap this up. Again, Israel, I am under the weather, so I'm very congested. On top of being pretty emotional. So anyway, so he consents to me leaving. Of course, during that time, you know, and by the way, unbeknownst to me, there was an eviction pending at the house I was living in. And this is before the phone call. I had actually received the eviction notice. I hadn't said anything to him about it. I wanted to see how long he was going to wait to tell me we were being evicted. I knew there had been financial issues going on, which is another reason I didn't understand why this nigga would take another wife. But I knew there was financial issues going on. He told me due to the split. Obviously, that caused some issues, whatever. But I didn't know it was that bad. Especially to the point that there's an eviction notice, and you haven't said anything to me about it. So, coupled with that... Okay, so, coupled with that, and, you know, just everything that was going on, like, I'm just like, you know, I'm ready to go. So, it was just a lot of back and forth. There were times where we're thinking we can try to reconcile. He's trying to convince me to stay. He's looking at other places for me. We're talking about whether or not he's going to re-sign the lease, and then he tells me he's not, and then he does and doesn't tell me that he is, and then, you know, just a whole bunch of bullshit was going on. And actually, I think the eviction actually came after he signed the new lease. It just didn't make any sense. But anyway, so there was just a lot of shit going on. So then now it's like, okay, well, I need to leave, you know, but obviously I need to get my things back down home with me. You know, my car, it's just me and my kids now. Like, I'm going to need transportation. So it was like, okay, so, you know, I need to get a U-Haul or whatever. And then it's like, you know, it's not in the budget. I'm not spending $3,000 for a U-Haul to, you know, whatever. Like, you're just gonna, you know, I'm just gonna have to put you guys on a plane, you know, and I'll ship your things down to you. Bullshit. He was letting me leave, but he was making it difficult for me to leave. I'm not leaving my things here. I moved my entire life for this man twice. My baby pictures. There was a prayer cloth Elder Matawathya had given to us while Jericho was still in my womb. Like, you know, my personal things that I had purchased that he had no part. Like, I'm not leaving all of my things to wait for you to quote unquote ship them. But obviously financially I'm dependent on him. So it's kind of like, what am I going to do? Trying to wrap this up. So time goes on, and, you know, finally he tells me about the eviction. Then, you know, there's still the teetering back and forth on, you know, staying and not going, and him begging me to stay. And then, you know, I'm still saying I'm leaving, and, you know, stuff like that. So there was a lot of back and forth in that regard. So I'm kind of content with leaving. Of course, he's making it difficult for me. I have no other financial means. I'm tired of dragging things out. I'm ready to go. So, you know, I guess he figures out the whole eviction process with the people, and we're given a day to move out where there will be no penalty against him. So, you know, he wants to put me in an apartment, like a 2-bedroom townhouse, whatever, that was managed by, I don't know if people may know her. Her name was Jocelyn or whatever. She give him blowjobs on occasion. I was uncomfortable with her having keys to my place, and honestly, I didn't want to stay. He was trying to do things to get me to stay, but I didn't want to. I think a majority of the time I was like buying myself time to kind of just make plans, because there was no way I was leaving my things. Me leaving my things and waiting for him to ship them honestly would have just been him holding my things hostage, knowing that I have an attachment to some things and I'll probably come back or I'll stay. So I was just trying to figure out how or what I could do to get up the funds myself to go. So he knew that when I got these quote-unquote funds that I was going to leave. So I kind of had to, you know, not show my hand entirely in what I was doing, because I knew he was trying to get me to stay. Even though he was telling me to leave, he was making it difficult for me to stay. And it was just getting uglier and uglier as time went on. So now we come to the leak and how all of this got out. It wasn't any conspiracy. It wasn't no Genesis came looking for information, or I went to Genesis and gave them information. None of that happened. None of that happened. That's not how that went down. So there are 3 sisters in Atlanta, the Atlanta camp, that I've always kind of walked close with, that despite me isolating myself and kind of, you know, not being around like that, like they always, you know, still kept in touch with me. And, you know, we were in group chat, and, you know, I vented to them on occasion, obviously never in depth. But I couldn't stand the idea of him being able to paint a narrative about me like he painted about Naya. Me taking off and being gone and just, you know, telling people whatever he wanted to tell them, because that's what happens far too often in Israel. The woman takes off, and there's just a narrative spun, you know, Wicked Eve just took off, you know, and she didn't even try counsel, she just took off. Like, I couldn't stand the idea of him being able to do that, especially with sisters I was close with. So I think towards the end of the date where we moved out of the house, or close to the time that we moved out of the house, I went out to brunch with these sisters. And I wanted to tell them what was happening. I wanted to tell someone what had happened. I wanted them to know that I wasn't just abandoning them. I wasn't leaving again. Because remember, this would be the second time essentially I was leaving. Like, you know, nobody knew it was like I was just gone. And I hated the fact that he would have the ability to just spin a narrative about me, and I didn't think that that was fair. And I wanted to finally be able to talk to my sisters and tell them what was going on and the real reason that I was leaving. And so I met with the sisters for brunch, and I spilled the beans. I told him everything, with the exception of one detail. But I told him everything. Of course, everybody's shocked. Everybody is like, oh my God, like, what? Nobody can believe it. At that point, I hadn't furnished any proof or anything. You know, I just wanted them to know what was really happening and why I was leaving. And of course, I begged them all. I was like, please don't go and say anything to anybody. Like, I don't know how he would react to it getting out. Like, I'm legitimately scared for my life if anybody was to repeat this to anybody else. And of course, they all assured me that they wouldn't, tell anybody anything. They were here to support me. I kind of told them about how he was making it difficult for me to leave, but that I was going to leave anyway. I just didn't want to take off and never having told them the real reason. So, apparently, when I said don't tell anyone didn't include their husbands. Oh, and I don't even know how I missed this part, but right after the escalation, which would be Naya, me finding out about Naya and, whatever. Once that happened, that's when I told Ariela's wife. So she knew about this for probably well over a year. I didn't tell her about anything beforehand. The fantasy, I never revealed that to anyone. But once it actually happened, I'm in the truth. So when it actually happened, I can't just hold that in and not tell a soul. Like, I went to one of my very best friends in the truth, and I told her. And I furnished the evidence. I showed her the proof of what had been going on and the fact that it actually happened. And that entire time, right up until the phone call and the leak, she just had pretty much been there to support me, kind of talk me through it. She was, as much as she was disgusted by the situation or whatever, like, she wanted to support me in whatever way. If I decided to reconcile with him, she would support me then. If I decided to leave, she was going to support me in that. She was a support for me. She knew for a very long time and never told anybody, to my knowledge. And even if she did, it doesn't matter because it didn't get out until I told people. So, like I said, I told the sisters, and apparently anyone doesn't mean their husband, which I guess I could understand that to an extent. Sometimes, I'm not going to tell anybody, but your husband is off, I'll tell my husband stuff. Everybody pillow talks. Men do too. Everybody pillow talks. So, they told their husbands, and before I knew it, I believe Kodash found out first, and Kodash called Dabak, and Dabak called Hassad, and that's essentially Genesis, so Genesis now knows. And two of the people who, one of the sisters, Chelsea, her husband Yathar, was a part of Sakari camp, and he had left when, he found out everything going on with me. He wasn't even on no type of, I'm about to go tell everybody, it was just like, since we have a YouTube page, if you want to expose it, we can, but if, you don't want to do that, like, we'll support you in whatever decision, and we'll help you in whatever way we can. And you're gonna exit in a second, you keep it up. We'll support you in whatever way we can or whatever. So, but then, not even 48 hours later, I feel like, Chelsea calls me and she's like, Hassad just called Yathar. Now I'm like, oh my God, it's out now. during this time, like, I'm planning to leave. It's just a matter of getting the funds together, because he's all this money he's showing that he has, being able to fly somebody out to Mexico and spend an additional $1,200 on somebody else, and he has this much in his account and that much in his account and whatever. For some reason, he couldn't find the $3,000 it might have taken for me to simply get a U-Haul to hook my car to the back of, put all my worldly possessions in there, and take my ass home. For some reason, he couldn't find the money for that. Whatever. So now it's like, oh my God, Genesis knows? If Genesis knows, now I'm scared. I am scared. I am just terrified, because although I haven't given anybody evidence in their hand, which for the record, when Yathar found out from Chelsea, he was not listening to me just based off the strength of what I said. He wanted to see proof. So I showed him proof. I never put anything physically in his hands. I just wanted him to know that, I'm not lying, and if anybody's able to help me or whatever, like, they want to know and make sure that they're not helping somebody who's making something up, or who's gonna believe this out of a man, who my husband is in the community, somebody they look up to. They would have never expected. So of course, everybody involved was like, what? Like, we're here to support you, sis, if this shit is real, but we need to see it. So at that point, the evidence that was shown to Yathar, so he knew everything, that it was true. So anyways, so Hassan ended up calling him, because Hassan got wind of it by the fucking grapevine. And he calls Yathar, and of course, Chelsea calls me. So now I'm terrified, because it doesn't even matter if nobody has any physical proof. The moment he finds out that I actually said that, like, I'm genuinely scared for my life, because Naya threatened to expose him when all this shit happened herself. She's threatened to expose him before in the past, and he's threatened her life. This is what she said. I didn't hear him threaten, but I believe her. Of course, I'm fearful now, and although I'm planning my exodus, I'm not prepared. This is out. I need to be at a safe distance from him, or somewhere where he doesn't know that I'm at, because this is coming out. There's nothing I can. It's out. It's bad enough that it's even out and that people know. So of course, we tell Yathar, and Yathar knows, and obviously now Hassan knows, and now it's getting around. So now everybody's priority is getting me to a safe place. And also during this time, I called KG and I let her know that I ran my mouth, thought I could trust these sisters not to tell anyone, which in all fairness, the level of weight that this had on me for as long as it did, I don't even know how I expected anybody not to say anything, in all fairness, at the very least to their husbands. So at that point, everybody, even including Hassad, who actually wanted the proof himself, like in terms of physically giving him the proof, and I wouldn't do that, because I already knew the narrative my husband was going to try to spin about that it was some conspiracy and it was some whatever. So although Hassad wanted to be supportive of me, because Hassad's been around me since, Jericho was a baby. It was just a genuinely nice brother. He's built relationship with the kids and stuff like that. Like, so he wanted to help. He was shocked at what was going on. But then at this point, I'm like, I need somebody else, like, to know what's going on, to help me get a handle of this. And based off the fact that I knew at that point, Ariella don't care who you are. If it's you and the Most High, he's going to choose the Most High in Scripture over you. He already proved that. Y'all could be salty about it all you want. Y'all may not like the messenger, but the message is true. The message is right. He didn't lie about anything. And the Most High chose him to do it. There's everybody being upset about who it came from and still salty about, the whole thing with SOT or whatever. Like, that's on y'all. But at the end of the day, y'all call yourselves Israelites, and we believe that the Most High is in control. So ultimately, this is how he wanted it to happen, and that's the vessel he chose to bring it out. So obviously, talking to KG, they're like, all right, well, now we have to tell Ariella, because we have to get you to a safe place. We're gonna need all hands on deck. He needs to know what's going on. So we tell Ariella. Ariella listened to everything, but even Ariella, the same as everybody else involved in this situation, Ariella said, I need to see proof of this, because this is crazy. And as much as I want to help you, sis, I don't, I'm not going to just do it. Like, I need to know what you're saying is true. Like, so, I was reluctant, because I didn't want to put the proof into anyone's hands. And up until that point, the only person that had seen any physical proof and that had physical proof in their hand was KG. When everything happened with Naya, I had told her what was going on. And of course, even she's like, what? And I sent her proof. And, over that time span, there was just sometimes he would say, I just got really paranoid at one point that even one person had known. And, there's times that, I'd call and I'd be like, I know I'd sent you proof or whatever. Like, please just delete everything in your phone. Like, he asked me something today that made me uncomfortable. I was just being paranoid. And so she said she had deleted everything. So this particular night, once I told Ariella, obviously he wants proof, I'm reluctant, because this shit is getting too real now. Because I went and ran my mouth, it's out and I can't take it back. And now whatever plans it is that I had and whatever time I was taking to come up with the funds, and whatever time I was taking to come up with the funds and stuff, there was no time for that. I gotta get the fuck out of Dodge. Because of how I knew this was going to go. So that night, Ariella was asking me for evidence. he's in another state from me. I obviously can't show it to him. I would have to send it to him, but I'm reluctant. So I'm like, I just need time to think. I don't know how much more I want to like have out there. Like, I just need time to think. So then KG texts me not too long after that. She was like, call me. I found something. I need to talk to you. So I called her, and she's like, so I went in my phone, and in a hidden file, I found some of the evidence you had sent me, which I fussed her out about that, because I'm like, KG, you were supposed to have deleted that. You know, of course, whatever. She apologized for it. But then it's like, okay, well, do you want me to show it to Ariella? And I'm gonna tell y'all like I told her. Like, I mean, what am I gonna tell you? No? I just told him this crazy, egregious allegations against a man he looks up to, a man who has taught him. Like, and he knows that now that you've known for some time, and now he knows that you have the evidence on your phone, and y'all in the same house, and I'm reluctant to give the evidence. What am I gonna say? Like, don't show it to him? Like, it is what it is. So, obviously she shows him the proof that's in her phone. It's actually some of the most damning evidence, which is by and large the evidence that was produced in that first video. The worst of it. So, obviously Ariella sees this, and I mean, y'all so raggedy for the way y'all have dealt with Ariella, bro. Like, he sobbed. He cried when he saw the evidence and he saw the proof. He took no delight or no joy in doing what it is that he has done. It hurt him so bad. And then I believe at that point I might have furnished additional, proof, because, but now I'm telling him, Ariella, the reason we're telling you is because this shit is out now. It's moving around. Genesis already got a hold of it. Like, he's gonna find out that I told somebody, and I need to be somewhere safe with the kids when that happens. And at the moment, I don't have the financial means to do it entirely on my own. There were others that were helping anonymously behind the scenes at some point if they want to come forward and, tell their part, and I'll allow them to do that. I'm not going to mention them in the video, but still, there was just all my stuff, and and I was scared. I was going to need protection. Like, there's no telling how he was going to react to something like this. Because although Naya had exposed some things before, and she, may have said something to, like, the sister Robbie that was in her house at some point, and something here, something there. And now she had told some people some stuff before. The main issue my husband has with me right now is not so much that I told people, but that I told the right people. So, Ariella finds out this, then he finds out Hassan knows, and not too long after that, I get another phone call from Chelsea. Rum knows. How the fuck does Rum know? Who the fuck told Rum? So now everything is heightened now. Now it's like this shit is barely been out 20 minutes, and it's clearly all over the freaking world at this point. So now there's a haste to get me out of the way at this point. Obviously between Ariella and Hassan, who at some point got on the phone, as well as Yathar, whatever. Like, they're like this. We have to get sis to a safer space or whatever, a safer place while we figure out how to handle this situation. For the record, from the very beginning of this, Ariella's first route was not go straight to the internet. And neither was it for, Hassan or anybody involved, primarily because of, how dangerous it would be for me, but also, like, they didn't necessarily want to handle it like that to begin with. But as time went on, now mind you, my husband saying things like we were cool, and he and I were still talking up until the point. That's nice, Sarah. So, he's saying things like we were, stop, mama. Just chill out. Give me like another 15 minutes, all right? I'll make you milk. You gotta chill out, man. So, yeah, initially they wanted to... Oh my God. So, initially they were going to take a completely different route. And they were going to just send him all the evidence that I had furnished and send it to him in text message and, pretty much tell him, like, we know, as far as Ariella goes in terms of Sakari, because Hassan obviously is with Sakari, but we know what's going on with Masalah. Ariella's pretty much leaving the camp, probably gonna take a few brothers with him, like, essentially leave me alone, don't try to come after me or make threats or anything like that, like, and they won't, like, bring it out. But during this span of time, as we're talking to Hassan and things, we're finding out more things, including Shamila, and the fact that he had slept with his wife's blood sister and paid her for it. This has been a counsel that had happened maybe around the time that I came back the second time, when I left and then I came back. Probably around the time of the first fruits incident, and me having the phone call with the elder where we talked about this. So, I lost my train of thought. So we're finding out about that stuff, which we didn't know about. We found out they had a counsel. Deacon was ready to leave. My husband cried, and he repented then. which he also did when I found out about the Naya thing. He cried and he repented then. I don't know why everybody's so swayed by the fact that he said he repented. He's been repenting for the same kind of sin and the same kind of thing for quite some time. This ain't his first time. How many times do you get to just keep essentially sinning, continuing the same kind of behavior? How long, how many times should I have allowed that before I was allowed to leave? You know, so I find out about that, and then somehow, some way, my husband found out that Ariella knew, and that, you know, things were coming to light. And at some point in time, obviously, making a video and exposing it and stuff had happened in conversation, but we hadn't completely gotten to that point yet. But somehow, it got back to my husband that people in Philly knew something. He knew Hassad was involved in it, so in his mind, I think he thought that the Shamila thing was coming out. I don't think he knew that it was what was going on with me, which is part of the reason why I feel like his response video went the way that it went. He was unprepared. He was prepared for the Shamila incident, because the only way anybody would have known that were the people that were out that counsel, which was Deacon, Yatab, Hassad, my husband, and I believe later on, Captain Tazama learned about it as well. So we're finding that out, and then my husband finds out that a video is possibly coming out. He goes into he finds out, and he starts saying things in their chat. I believe Ariella went over all that evidence already, in terms of him saying, you know, I hear there's something going on, a video is supposed to come out, or whatever, and y'all should have came to me, whatever. Then he started kicking people out the chat, kicked out pretty much all the Philly camp, and mind you, this is before the video even came out. So there's a lot of aggravating factors that led to the video just being put out. Now, for the record, and everybody involved in this knows, emphatically, I begged them not to put that video out. Like, I pleaded with them not to put the video out because I knew what it would do. Things were already bad as it was. But due to the nature of the things that were happening and the evidence that had been produced, I was voted against in that regard. Like, this has to come out. Like, it has to. However, everybody involved, one of their main top priorities was getting me and the children somewhere safe before even releasing anything. There was a portion of that I did not want to come out at all. I want to make that clear. I talk to your wives. I counsel your wives. A lot of y'all are lucky you don't have a magnifying glass on your sex lives right now. So y'all can think whatever y'all want to think about whatever and say whatever y'all want to say about whatever, but there was a part of that video, or evidence in that video, I did not want to come out. And I actually said, you know, if this video is gonna come out regardless of how I feel about it, can we at least edit out a certain part, because I know what Israel is going to focus on. I was also outvoted with that. They said they were gonna put it out anyway, but first, at the very least, we need to make sure you're secure and you're safe. But this has to come out because we can't bury this as well. And then obviously the way my husband was acting and kicking people out the chat and, you know, kicking people out the camp and all this kind of stuff, and then us finding about Shamila and some other things, and this stuff was happening over a course of days. By the time my husband found out about it. So he and I were still in communication, but I had to play it cool and not let him know anything was going on. At one point, I remember he either called me or he texted me, and he was like, so what's the word in the street? Like, is something going on or whatever? And I was just kind of course, I'm paranoid, but I'm just kind of like, I don't know, what are you talking about, you know? And he's just kind of like, okay, it just kind of seems like, you know, something might be going on or whatever, like, whatever. Of course, I, you know, acted none the wiser. But unbeknownst to him, behind the scenes, I'm in the process of trying to get away, because I know this is getting ready to come out, but everybody is waiting for me to be safe before they do what they have to do, and that's everybody involved. But I did not want this spectacle. I want to make that very clear. I also want to make it very clear, Hassad didn't come asking me personally for evidence. Like, I wasn't the direct, like, he just, hey, Masalah, by any chance, do you happen to have any evidence or anything on your husband or whatever for me to, like, that didn't happen. Ariella didn't seek this out. His wife knew for well over a year, probably a year and a half, and never said anything about it. The brother Yathar and Chelsea, they also obviously didn't know anything about anything until I brought it to them. So this wasn't no grand conspiracy. He told Janae that I went to Genesis and gave them evidence. None of that happened. Deacon didn't even know at the very beginning. Like, that didn't happen. The problem was I confided in my friends. My friends went back and ran their mouths, and here we are. So I get to a safe spot, and then the video is released. And even before the video was released, obviously I know the infamous Joker card my husband sent me, which I have had several people who are, you know, natives of the West Coast who have told me what that card means. He can play and talk to y'all and act like it's not anything threatening, it's not whatever. That's because my husband is far too calculated to make any flat out straight up threat. He's not dumb, right? He's dumb, but he's not dumb. You know what I'm saying? But for the record, it's on the record. And there are plenty of people who understand what that means in West Coast gang culture. So obviously now there's more of a fear. I need y'all to understand, up until this point, my husband has agreed to let me leave. So this wasn't about, oh, money and I could have stayed and he would have put me in a place. I could have still been getting my bills paid. I decided not to go that route. I was tired. I didn't want to do it anymore. And also, something I didn't mention earlier was another thing about this cuck fetish, and after everything had happened with Naya, despite everything that had happened with her, he still continued with the same behavior. He continued the grooming, the coercion. He even told me at one point an indecent proposal, quite frankly. So he had made an indecent proposal. Because at some point, obviously, like I told you, there's like this back and forth, trying to find a remedy for how we fix our marriage, if it's fixable, and how we move forward. And my husband's suggestion to me was, it was clear how unhappy I was, and how much I didn't want to be with him anymore. And that I was, conflicted in a lot of ways. But his proposal was that I get a boyfriend, a white boyfriend specifically. He'll put me up in a house or, an apartment or something like that. And I continue to be a stay-at-home mom, which is super important to me, mainly because of my son's autism and me being reluctant to leave him with anyone. So that was another thing he used against me as well, knowing how much, it's not so much about being scared of going back to work or anything like that, but genuinely just being scared about my very vulnerable child. So he had said that, I had the option of, being put up in the house. He would still take care of me financially and everything like that. And it would be like a 70-30 thing. So like the white guy would get most of me 70% of the time, and he would only get 30% of me. And I had to always keep him abreast of the details, what was going on in our lives and all that kind of stuff. And, but I couldn't allow him at the house because of the kids and, just whatever. He literally told me that doing that would save our marriage. That was the remedy. That's what he said would save our marriage if I did that. So anyway, which I wasn't willing to do. I thought very hard on it at some point, but I wasn't willing to do it. I guess that's what made me disagreeable and disrespectful. I didn't yield to your perversion. I wasn't down with the crown. I didn't go with the flow. So if it was about money for me, like, why didn't I just stay? Why would I much rather be in a shelter with my children than under his roof? Why would I rather go back out into the streets? 37 years old, mother of 2 small children in 2025, have to go back to work and all. I would rather do that than continue with my husband. Anyway, so video gets out. Obviously, you guys kind of know what happened with all that at that point. I know he was caught off guard because I believe that he believed what was coming out was the situation about Shamila and that secret counsel that was buried years ago that nobody knew about. Had I known about that out of every woman that my husband has access to, and for all his power and all his prestige and all his, groupies and fans, he chose his wife's blood sister to sleep with. Why? You could have had anybody else. You could have did it with anyone else. You chose her blood sister. And shame on the brothers that knew about this and buried this. From my understanding, the reason that he said that he did this was because he had misunderstood the scripture in Leviticus. That he misunderstood the scripture in Leviticus, and he thought that that was talking about threesomes, whatever. Yeah, and that he thought that it was about threesomes, whatever. So just during this time, we're just, finding out more things. The Shamila, we didn't know anything about that. That came to light, once we talked to Hassad and things like that. As videos are being dropped and as the days went on, obviously, as you guys saw how everything kind of transpired and unfolded, we start getting more evidence. Not only had he lied to me about, introducing this to other women or whatever, but he was doing it during the time that he was trying to reconcile with me, and we were trying to build trust back and trying to see what if at all we could salvage of our marriage. He was still doing this shit while he's repentant and being sorry and telling me to to forgive and to move on and all this kind of stuff. Like, he was still doing things. As recently as not too long after taking Janae on as a wife, there was another sister in Philly, the sister named Taylor, obviously Ariella put that video out with the evidence that showed he was still doing this stuff. The behaviors had not stopped. And the repentance letter that he's talking about, like he's first of all, he never advertised it as a damn repentance letter. He simply wanted to get his thoughts out on paper and read it out loud. And initially, and I had heard, I guess, you know, once everything went down, I guess that was around the time that, you know, once Janae found out some shit, she was just kind of like, you know, not cool with it. And like, you need to go to therapy. Mind y'all, I have begged this man for therapy and to go to an elder about this situation for a long time. And he never would do it for me. For whatever reason, salvaging the marriage he had with Janae was more important than salvaging the marriage that he had with me. Very evident. And that's cool. Because I'm disrespectful and I'm disagreeable, right? So when he read the letter, mind y'all, when he's telling y'all that everything was cool, and then all of a sudden that happened, the reason why everything seemed cool on his end was because I was playing it cool. I had to. I couldn't let on that things were happening or whatever. Like, I had to play it cool. So he doesn't even know that at the time he read me that letter, I believe that time I was either in a shelter or, yeah, I think I was in a shelter at the time. I was already halfway through my Exodus journey by the time he read me this letter. I initially thought it was an exercise from the therapy he said he had started. And then he told me no, he had paused the therapy because something in therapy had triggered him. So it was just something he had decided to do himself, and he just wanted to read it to me. And he read it to me, and I thought it was beautiful. Finally hearing him say out loud everything that I had been telling him and seemingly take accountability in the form of this letter, I thought it was a great step. But I said to him, I wish I would have, or you would have read this to me like 3 to 6 months ago. You know, we are where we are now. So, and then I think after following that, maybe a week later, is when the video came out. Hope you guys are keeping up. Because again, there was a gap of time spanning from about a week to 2 weeks where the main thing was, all right, it's out in the community right now, but, you know, it's not gotten to the point where it's gotten back to him yet. So we could just be cool for the moment, figure you and the kids out and get you out to a safe space, and then, you know, we'll release the video. So I think the video was released March 2nd. I'm pretty sure he read that letter to me maybe like the 23rd or the 24th of February. While he's telling y'all this shit is old and this shit been happened and like, you literally just read that letter a week ago. You never said anything about it being a repentance letter, or, you know what I mean? And he had said, you know, I just read a letter to this, or I just read a letter to repent to this same rib a week ago. Israel, he thinks you're stupid. He thinks you guys are so dumb that you won't realize that 2 + 2 doesn't equal 666. What did he repent to me from? What did he repent to me about? And in the most recent videos, he now changes and says that he put me out. But in the first video, he also said that he loved me and wished he could hug me. The question is, if he's saying that he read me a repentance letter, what did he repent to me about? He had put me out, right? What was he repenting for? There's evidence that I have that clearly shows that even by, even by his own admission, he said he had put me out for being disrespectful and disagreeable. Okay, well, what did you write me a repentance letter for? So now we got to the point where, you know, obviously everything is out. I'm kind of just rolling with the punches and stuff and trying to see how he's going to react before, you know, I respond or anything like that. And obviously you guys saw his responses. You know, he just continues to throw smoke screens and to lie, but also say that he's repentant and also say that he's repentant. But then every video after that, you know. So fast forward to where we are now. And then pretty much we are where we are right now. I also want to make something clear as far as the children go. Nobody's hiding his kids from them. That's not even real. It's fake news. He just wants y'all to focus on that so that he can try to, you know, make it a Eve taking off with kids again and keeping them from their dads. That's not the case. The reason that I have stayed away is because I believe that you may potentially want to cause me harm. I have a reason to believe that. So while things are still hot and all over the place, I don't think it's a good idea to even come around him. Obviously, if I bring the children to see, like, I have to be there, or I'm gonna have to be there. They can't take themselves in, you know, by themselves. So while he's acting like he put me out and he, you know, whatever, right up until like maybe 2 days out from me being in a safe place with the kids, or at least a place that he's not going to be able to easily find us at, he called me. Mind you, he doesn't know any of this is going on. Remember, this is like a 1 to 2 week slot in between where we were just trying to get me somewhere secure before they did anything. He called me and told me about a family crisis. I can get into the details of that, but I'm not going to unless I have to. I've heard that he's been more transparent and forthcoming to the enablers around him. He had called me and said that there was a family crisis and something he needed my help with, in regards to something that occurred at the house involving one of the children. He knows what I'm talking about. And if he has been as transparent with the men around him as it seems that he is saying that he is being, I pray you told them why you wanted me to move in, so that they could leave. With that being said, and without me having to go into a whole bunch of details, nobody's trying to keep your children from you. Things needed to settle down before I felt safe even coming around you. It's just that simple. You acted like somebody kidnapped your kids and all that kind of stuff. You gave me consent to leave. Now all of a sudden, it's like you took my children? Or is it because of the way that I'm leaving? So you have to use the only bargaining chip you have, because you can't use money on me. So you have to take from me two of the things that are most valuable to me in life. That's the only reason why you're coming after these children, or trying to act like somebody kidnapped them. So I said all that to say this. The direction you're going in, I'm not sure if I'm reading too much into it, but I want to make something clear. If you think for 1 second that you are going to get, if you think for 1 second that I'm going to allow you to take even partial custody of these kids, so you could bring them to that house full of potential weirdos, you're completely out of your mind. There's no way either you or any of your henchmen that live with you are going to get the light-skinned version of me and my nonverbal son alone. It's just that simple. Again, I can go into details on that, but maybe you should tell them the reason why you wanted me to move in and the reason why Soleil got sent back to her mother's. With that being said, family, Shalawam, y'all have been such an important part of what kept me in my right mind throughout some of the things that were happening. Y'all were a large part of what kept me sane. And another one of the threats that he always made to me was excommunicating me and taking the community from me, because let's be honest, he has the power to do that. He's done that to some extent already. And I'm okay with that, because if y'all not down with me now or supporting me now based off the evidence and the things that have been shown, then y'all was never really with me to begin with, and y'all were never really my friends. If he could take you from me, then you were never mine. So I know I've said a lot in these videos. In some places I probably jumped all over the place, and there's probably some gaps and things that, you know, that may need some more clarification. Shortly after this, more evidence will be put out to corroborate the things that I've said. And in addition, I will be doing a live question and answer to clear up anything that's misunderstood here, or any additional questions you guys might have. I love y'all to life. Shalawam.